Whether or not Eric and Lyle Menendez killed their parents isn't a question. It's been proven and they've admitted it. But why they did it and whether they've done their time is what now needs to be answered. The brothers are the closest to freedom they've been in 35 years. They could be out in days.
You have brought hope to this family that we didn't see coming.
When life behind bars isn't what it means, especially in Hollywood.
Redemption is possible.
Eric and Lyle Menendez, now a chance at freedom.
I'm hopeful that now that the right thing will be done and they'll walk out.
After more than 3 decades in jail, the brothers have been resentenced. 50 years to life, the new term. And in California, that means when you're under 26 at the time of the crime, you're eligible for parole.
I am so happy that I wore waterproof mascara, is how I'm feeling, because I have been crying all day long.
It's a story of money, murder, and a famous mistrial.
Mom, what can I say? If Dad was our foundation, well, Mom, you were the wallpaper and the beautiful furnishings.
Ready-made ingredients for a Netflix smash. Monsters not only brought in the bucks, but breathed new life into the fate of the 2 boys, now in their 50s.
I'm not a bad person.
35 years locked away, and Lyle and Eric Menendez are again the talk of Tinseltown and Hollywood.
Don't kill my parents. Pardon me? Don't kill my parents. Were they shot? Yes. They were shot? Yes.
But behind the bright lights and camera clicks, there's some cold hard facts.
I'm just a normal kid.
Oh, Eric, you're a normal kid who killed your parents.
Yeah, I know.
On August 29th, 1989, the boys butchered their parents.
She had 10 wounds on her. She was getting blasted all over that room.
The first trial ended in a deadlock. The prosecution said they did it for money. The defence said the 2 boys were preyed on by their father.
There are people who think that you two are evil, that you are monsters. What do you say to them?
That's not who I am, but I can't defend that.
Did you cry?
Yes.
Were you scared?
Very.
The testimony, fairly or unfairly, dubbed the abuse excuse.
My dad had been molesting me.
Excluded from a retrial, Eric and Lyle Menendez were jailed for life. The case shook a nation, but now it's got a hold on the world.
First, a letter describing the abuse, and a former member of the band Menudo, Roy Rossello, has come forward also claiming Jose Menendez sexually abused him.
Our fascination with true crime might well be the best thing that's happened to the Menendez brothers in a long time.
Today is a great day after 35 years.
We're joined by Michael Franzese, a former New York mob boss who served time in prison with Eric and Lyle Menendez. Michael, really appreciate your time. What a moment for the brothers. What's your reaction to today's news?
Well, I was happy for them. You know, I spent a lot of time with them way back when, and you know, I mean, I think it's about time they got a break. You know, they were modeled prisoners. This happened a long time ago, and I believe it's going to happen for them, and I'm happy for them.
So you were in a cell next to Lyle Menendez for almost a year. I know you started talking. What did he share with you?
Well, you know, it started out, he knew who I was because, you know, I had some, you know, publicity when I got in there. So he started talking to me mainly, you know, about the system. It's not something that he was very familiar with. You know, talked to me a little bit about his attorneys, you know, asked me some questions about his case and, you know, how he was defending it. And then as we got to know each other well, you know, we went out on visits together. He would sit next to me. He would meet my wife and children. But as we got closer, because we were next to each other all day long, day and nights, 24 hours a day, he started opening up to me, you know, and I asked him questions about the crime, and, you know, he told me about the abuse.
What did he tell you about that abuse and how bad it was?
You know, he told me it started at a young age for both him and his brother, and that his father was very dominant, and, you know, he had to basically bend to the will of his father. and he told me that his father sexually abused him. He didn't get into details of what happened, and I didn't ask those type of questions.
Did you believe him?
I believed him. There was some level of abuse there, no question in my mind. You know, I know they said that that particular night that this crime happened, that they were in fear of their life. I'm not going to go so far as to say that I can totally believe that or, sign off on that. But there was definitely abuse, and they definitely had fear of their dad.
So what do you think of the crime that the brothers committed?
Well, listen, there's no excuse for that. I mean, it was a pretty heinous murder. That was their parents. I thought about it myself, having spent so much time on the street. And, especially with respect to the mom, to be that brutal with the mom and to put 10 shots in her. When he started to tell me about, that he was so disappointed in his mom because she never really stood up for him. She was pretty much in fear of the dad also. She turned a blind eye whenever those things were going on behind closed doors, and she had to know what was going on. There was resentment there.
And how did Lyle go meeting with you? I mean, you said that he knew who you were. You're one of the top dogs for a major crime family in New York at the time. You're even portrayed in the Goodfellas movie. Was he intimidated by you?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I didn't present myself that way, And it's funny, we were on what you call death row or murderer's row because everybody on that tier, they were all pre-trial and they were facing life without parole or the death penalty. Now I was there on a parole violation because the government was mad at me and they were just punishing me, keeping me in solitary, So he started to be very inquisitive, and then he asked me mob questions like everybody else does. I guess he was inquisitive about that. So we got along well.
How were they treated by the other prisoners in there?
While we would walk together, the other inmates would be harassing them. Oh, we're going to get you when you get inside, and you killed your parents and all that kind of stuff, right? So the guards had to really kind of protect them. And then Eric leaves, and now it's me and Lyle walking together. Well, I was young back then. I was in my early 30s. They thought that I was one of the Menendez brothers. So now they start harassing me. And I said, hey, I told one of the correctional officers, hey, I got enough trouble being Michael Francis. I don't need to be, Eric Menendez. So don't walk me with him. And I told Lyle, I said, Lyle, I got a wife and kids at home. I said, I'm not walking with you. You're going ahead of me. And he understood, But yeah, I mean, they gave him a hard time initially, but that passed also.
So if they'd been tried today, how differently do you think it may have played out?
I think they might have got a better break. I mean, if the jury bought the abuse, the whole abuse defense, I think they could have gotten off a lot easier. I think they would have gotten life with parole, at least, if they got life. And they might have even gotten a lesser sentence, maybe for manslaughter, because of the age that they were, too. They were young. I think it's a different time right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a greater understanding of abuse and how it impacts victims now. I know how you feel about this decision today, but what do you think the broader view in the US is about the Menendez brothers and them potentially getting out on parole in perhaps the next few days?
Well, there was a lot of mixed comments. Some were very harsh and, hey, they should never get out of jail. And we saw a lot of that. And then we saw those that, were sympathetic to them. And, the fact that their whole family was really supporting them, except for one person, and he passed away now. I think he was the mom's brother. Everybody out here seems to be pretty supportive.
But just think about the world that they're re-entering. I mean, how much has changed since '96 when they were locked away? Smartphones, internet, artificial intelligence. They have no idea. How do they adjust to this new world?
Well, they'll adjust, listen, I mean, I spent 3 years in solitary and, things passed me by when I was in solitary, 8 years altogether, but you come out and, you adjust quite quickly, I think. It's not as hard as you think.
Do you reckon you'll see them if they get out?
Oh, I think I will, yeah. I think they'll either contact me or I might reach out to them just to congratulate them and give them a pat on the back. And if I can help them in any way, I would.
I reckon there'll be plenty to catch up on. And just before you go, Michael, how are you going with the whole visa situation? I know you're planning on touring here, sharing your many stories from your mafia days. Is the Aussie government going to let you in?
Yeah, they already have. There was a delay in getting my visa, but we got it last Thursday. I have it in hand. So we've now rescheduled the tour in Sydney and Melbourne to July 7th and 9th. I promised everybody this is going to be the greatest events that we've ever done in both cities, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, we look forward to hearing their stories when you do get here. In regards to the Menendez brothers, we'll wait and see what the parole board decides. Thank you so much, Michael.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.